Hello, folks, and welcome to this tornado outbreak short summary. We are going to be going over the infamous May 27th, 1997 tornado outbreak. You may also have heard this outbreak being called the Central Texas tornado outbreak, the 97 Central Texas tornado outbreak, or whatever you actually know it as. With this event, we saw 20 tornadoes in the span of just a little bit over 7 hours, with a fourth of these tornadoes, five, being intense or above on the Fujita scale. Intense or above is F3 or above, so F4, F5. In total, this event would cause 28 deaths, 33 injuries, $126.6 million in damage. That dollars in damage being 97 US dollars. This event has some very abnormal and a little complicated dynamics going at play, and I really wanted to highlight this particularly because it is pretty wild with the meteorology at play here, with some very large extremes going on. So here we are. Normally, with almost any storm system that goes through the US or for almost anywhere in the world for that matter, a low pressure is the cause. With its warm front, cold front, and dry line, everything moving into the ingredients necessary for storms and it causes storms to happen. This was not the case here. Of course, we did have ingredients for storms to happen, but there was no low pressure to mix things up, to cause those ingredients to actually form storms. I can have parsley, potatoes, carrots, and a pot and water all sitting in front of me, but that doesn't make a soup yet. I need to actually do stuff to make the soup. Instead, this was a combination of a cold front and its dry line, not associated with a low pressure, and a gravity wave, which is a real thing, however, is really difficult to explain. I'm going to be honest. It is a very complicated atmospheric phenomenon that is essentially just a little bend that happens that can actually cause storm propagation. In the area that we saw this outbreak, of course, we had strong divergence of the jet stream. So high up in the atmosphere, winds are going slightly apart from each other and forming a very shallow V to visualize that. However, we had very little, especially directional shear. We had a little bit of speed shear, but overall, very, very little shear, which is part of the four-part acronym SLIM: shear, lift, instability, and moisture. So we're missing one of our key ingredients. What we do have, though, is plenty of moisture. Moist air from the Gulf of Mexico has been moving north for the past like 5 days at this point on the 27th, and has been held under a capping inversion, not allowing this moist air to mix with anything higher up than the inversion at all. This caused dew points on the surface to reach around 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is very humid feeling. It's not a fun time. That is Florida moisture in Texas. Y'all can keep it. I don't want it. I'm in Illinois, even though it happens here too. In a perfect scenario, we could wipe this slate completely clean, get rid of that inversion, get out of here, make the soup with all of the ingredients, and then start anew when we want to make another one. Just need to get more ingredients next time. However, this didn't happen. Instead, the atmosphere kept on buying potatoes and kept on buying water and got a really, really big pot. So conditions kept on getting worse and worse, allowing this inversion specifically allowing everything to keep on accumulating. This caused convective available potential energy, CAPE for short, to grow as high as 5,000 joules per kilogram to 6,500 joules per kilogram. Now, obviously, that's a lot of joules per kilogram of air, which, now that you mention it, yes, a kilogram of air is going to be a big space. Air doesn't weigh a whole lot, but still, the fact that the NWS considers 4,000 joules per kilogram to be extreme, and we are seeing like 50 to 150% more than that, is pretty crazy. So, once this gravity wave, front and dry line interact, it is like a zipper forming a jacket, and that zipper is just the storm formation going along in a huge line. And we see that in this GIF down here at the bottom left. One storm forms, everything kicks off. This eventually forms a squall line that moves south that pretty much ends the tornado activity, as squalls really inhibit the tornado threats for an area, as they're moving so fast that opposite moving winds have little chance of doing anything. And even if they do form tornadoes, they're usually very weak, which we didn't see any with the squall line. So essentially, what happened with this cape being so high, shear was not needed. It's like making that big pot of soup, remember, and you have your potatoes, you have your spices, you have a big ass pot, but you forgot the carrots, but you have a little bit too many potatoes, so you just use all of those instead. It'll make do without the carrots. It's not going to be a perfect soup, but it's still going to be pretty good. That's essentially what the atmosphere can do. There are some things it can't replace, like moisture. If there's not enough moisture, you may not even have storm development, as moisture, water vapor, is what clouds are pretty much made of. So shear can essentially be replaced by instability, which is what CAPE is. But so like certain things can be replaced. You cannot replace the water necessarily with something else in a soup. You can't get rid of the pots. You may not say if you don't have the potatoes, you can't really make the soup. You can't really make the potato soup. Things can be replaced. Some things can, some things can't. Anyways, this is just going to show just how weird and abnormal the atmosphere was for this event. With all my ramblings out of the way, our first notable here is the north of Belton, Texas, F3. This tornado tracked for 2.3 kilometers and reached a maximum width of 250 meters, around 240-ish yards, causing nearly $1 million in damage. This was mostly due to the fact that it hit Morgan's Point Resort, which is where our marina was at. This tornado capsized 100 boats at this resort, with a photo of some of these boats seen here in the bottom right. This tornado additionally very badly damaged 10 homes, would then cross the entirety of the lake for the most part, before dissipating very shortly after reaching the southern shore of Belton Lake. Despite that, that's really all the tornado did. It just hit at a very bad location. The tornado this event is most infamous for, notwithstanding anything, is the Drell Texas F5. This tornado is rightfully so considered one of the strongest ever, with some caveats that I'm going to get into right here. This tornado, no matter what it's rated at, still caused 27 deaths, 12 injuries, and $40.1 million in damage. This tornado tracked a relatively impressive 8.2 kilometers, reaching an impressive 1.2 kilometers wide at its widest point. That is 3/4 of a mile wide. The Drell F5 started off, of course, as just a mesocyclone, a supercell, but had a very rapid formation and then intensification. It was first seen to have F5 damage upon reaching just half a mile wide, more or less 3 or so minutes after formation, as the cell was moving relatively fast, where then it stripped 1,000 feet of pavement combined. And we see this in the damage photo here in the bottom right. This tornado, after this point, though, would slow a lot. Like, this thing is moving at like 1 to 3 miles an hour. So slow, almost stationary for a tornado. This thing would, due to this, this would exacerbate some of the damage caused by this tornado. As we can see in the bottom center photo here, plumbing was ripped off of concrete foundations. Some foundations were left completely barren, as if there was just a concrete slab built there, and then that's it. Why are all these concrete slabs out here in the middle of nowhere, Texas? Well, it used to be part of a town called Gerald that was hit like just under a decade before, by the way. Not by an F5, but by still a pretty strong tornado. This thing also caused ground scarring of up to 18 inches deep. Almost every single car that was unfortunately in the path of this tornado was either wrecked and somehow found or straight up ceased to exist as we know it, as in they were completely annihilated. Not even a car, not even frame from body type deal, frame from chassis. We are talking just reduced to atoms, gone, never to be seen again. Where's my car? Tornado, what do you do with my car? You got rid of it. You didn't need it no more. Sorry. Thanks, tornado. This tornado also debarked every single tree that was in its main path, with one tree, as we can see here in the bottom left, even having an electrical wire going through it. How that happened, obviously wins, but that is impressive nonetheless. No matter if that was already a small hole in the tree or not, for a tornado to be that precise is impressive too, if that's the case. After this tornado happened, the Cedar Park, Texas F3 happened as well. This tornado injured 15 and caused $70 million in damage. This tornado had a path 15 kilometers long and reached nearly 200 meters wide at its maximum point. This tornado most notably destroyed the roof of an Albertsons grocery store, where the manager of this Albertsons had experienced the Wichita Falls tornado from 79, and having the experience from that got everyone in the store to a safe location in this grocery store, preventing them from leaving, which would have been in cars or walking. This this non-arguably, this 100% saved lives, and very, very good on this person for doing that. That is incredible work. This tornado would slightly later on flip a rail car that weighed 65,000 pounds and moved it just a little bit. This is what, like 32,000 kilos, which is extremely impressive. This tornado damaged 136 homes. This damage ranged from F1 all the way up to F3 strength, and this tornado would destroy 11 homes. This tornado, like all of the tornadoes here, actually, is also notable for moving from north to south instead of south to north, like usual. Our fourth notable and our last one here is the Lakeway, Texas F4. You may have also heard this as the Pedernales Valley, Texas F4. On two separate official NWS documents, one of them called it the Lakeway F4, one of them called it the Pedernales Valley F4. So they both were referencing the same tornado. So in case you hear either one of these, you know what they're talking about. This tornado caused 1 death, 5 injured, and $15 million in damage over its path that was 9 kilometers long and reached up to 400 meters wide at its widest point. Early on in this tornado's life, it destroyed a marina just like our first notable, as well as a few dozen watercraft. A telephone building, seen here in the bottom center, that was responsible for switching relays between them all, was completely gutted. Although not wholly downed by this tornado, this building warranted the F4 strength. A singular metal transmission tower line was downed from this tornado as well. Over the course of its entire life, it destroyed 25 homes and also saw a constant terrain change. This is a myth that has been busted time and time again. Terrain change does little to nothing to a tornado. It does not matter. There's a tornado in '84 in one of the Carolinas that went over a 300-foot cliff and still kept on going. Terrain really doesn't do anything to tornadoes. It sure can, but Burnett's Mound isn't going to save the town. That's all I'm saying. This event is, of course, most notable for the Gerald F5, in which in Gerald there is a memorial for the victims of the '89 and '97 tornadoes. This tornado is also controversially rated. Personally, I do not think that tornado is an F5. However, I would bare a minimum rate the Gerald tornado high end F4 because of the sheer amount of damage it did, stationary or not. However, despite everything that happened, this was a pretty well warned and well monitored event. Events were monitored, watches and warnings were issued very timely and very, very well. Despite the odd dynamics, everything was monitored very well. Despite even the radar interference caused by inversions, yes, inversions can cause radar to bounce back sooner than it should, causing abnormal signal. This event was still very well warned and monitored. This was the first quote unquote test, end quote, for the Texas Urban Search and Rescue Team, which, by the way, went very, very successfully. Search and rescue operations, relief operations went extremely well for all of the tornadoes that happened. This team was created in right after the Oklahoma City bombing. That happened in what, '95? I wasn't alive then. I don't know. I forgot. So this team was created in response to help out with regional search and rescue, and this was the first time it was deployed, and it went very well. Again, there is a granite memorial for the tornado victims in Gerald, serving as a remembrance to the devastation that tornadoes can truly do. With that, folks, that is all that I have for this event. I hope that you learned something. I certainly did a little bit while researching. All of the sources that I have will be down in the description of this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.